here editing this week's video, and I wanted to give you a quick update. So we just finished week 4. I can't believe it's already been 4 weeks of Three Rivers Pantry Challenge, and I have an update. So far, I have not gone to the grocery store, and we have spent $0. This has been so exciting. This is so fun. I hope you enjoy this video where I share what we ate this week on week 4. And stay tuned till the end because I give another update of what our fridge and freezer and pantry look like. Enjoy! For breakfast this week, I'm gonna make a French toast casserole. I'm gonna use up some bread that's been in the fridge since the holidays. Nobody's using it, so I'm gonna take it and turn it into French toast casserole. Sorry, y'all, the beeper's going off for the cookies. I'm making cookies for a snack this week. Anyway, I'm using gingerbread coffee creamer that we had for the holidays. Nobody's using it, so I'm gonna use it up here. It was filled to about here, but I went ahead and poured 2 cups. That's what we're gonna use as a base. Add a splash of vanilla, splash of pumpkin spice. I thought that might complement the gingerbread flavor. This has a very strong ginger taste, and there's a lot of cinnamon in here already. A couple of tablespoons of coconut sugar, and a pinch of salt, and 5 eggs. So I'm just gonna mix all this together. So we have 5 fresh eggs. I'll whip these up. A splash of vanilla, pinch of salt, a little bit of pumpkin pie spice, 2 tablespoons of coconut sugar. That smells like the perfect winter spice. This is 2 cups of that gingerbread coffee creamer. Now we're gonna take it and we're gonna pour it all over our cinnamon bread. Give it a stir so that all this bread can absorb all this liquid. I am gonna make a strudel topping with equal parts butter, brown sugar, and coconut sugar. We're gonna bake at 350 for 45 minutes. 45 minutes later, here it is, breakfast for the week. And cleaning out the fridge. Here's an example of how you can take something nobody wants to eat and turn it into something warm and comforting that everybody wants. Today, I'm gonna make some homemade chocolate chip cookies. I have not made this in several years, so today is the day. I did not have any chocolate chips, but I did have sweet chocolate baking squares, so we're gonna go with that. We also have an egg, salt, a little bit of oatmeal, brown sugar, coconut sugar, a mix of the 2. I'm using this whole wheat flour because I wanna finish this up. Some butter, a little bit of milk, vanilla, pecans, and baking soda. Here's the wet ingredients. And I put more milk because I'm using store-bought whole wheat flour instead of pastry flour, which is what I used to use. So we'll see how they come out. I'll put half of the dry mixture in with the liquids. I'll mix and then I'll add the rest. The wet and dry ingredients have been incorporated. Now it's time to add the chocolate. Fold these in, or stir these in, or 2 tablespoons of oats. I'm gonna break up about 2 or 3 hands of pecans, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the refrigerator and let it chill for about an hour before we bake them. Because these are really large cookies, more like 2 tablespoons a piece instead of 1, we're gonna bake for 12 to 15 minutes, or at 375. The beeper's going off for the cookies. These cookies were as big as the size of my hand. They're giant. I went ahead and pulled them out after 12 minutes. I think they're gonna be perfect after they sit out of the oven for a couple of minutes. These are the giant ones on the giant pan. This is the normal size cookies. I only cooked these for 8 minutes. The color looks funny because it's whole wheat, but they're gonna be yummy. I made the cookies about an hour ago. Did not think I had any chocolate chips. And look what I just found. This is another reason why I'm so happy I'm participating in this challenge. I have stuff that I don't even know what I have. 8 quarts of shrimp stock is what we ended up with. The disregards that we no longer need will now become a treat. I'm gonna use some of this to make a gumbo, and then I am gonna can the rest. Tonight we're gonna have shrimp and okra gumbo. Cajuns eat a lot of gumbo all year round. I prefer gumbo in the fall and the winter. I like to do a variety of different kinds. We have shrimp, roux, an onion, a couple of pieces of frozen bell pepper, some smoked Cajun sausage. We're only gonna use a small piece of this for the smoky flavor, Tony's, and 2 quarts of smothered okra. Now, if I was using store-bought sliced okra that has not been cooked down, I would also add a couple of capfuls of white vinegar to get the slime out of the gumbo. I don't like slime in my gumbo. Since this is smothered okra, the slime has already been cooked out of it. And instead of chicken stock, we are gonna use some of the fresh shrimp stock. So this is 2 quarts of shrimp stock with about a cup of roux. I lightly seasoned it. I will also season the shrimp. Then basically we're just gonna cut everything up, throw it in the pot and let it cook on medium high for about an hour. I'm only gonna use 1 link of this sausage. The other will just go in the refrigerator for another meal. And I am gonna put this okra in the pot first. I'm only using 2 quarts of liquid because the shrimp is gonna release a lot of water as it cooks. So 2 quarts of shrimp stock is fine for the size gumbo we're making. This will feed us tonight and then we'll have leftovers. This happens to be some deer sausage that we've had made and about a pound, maybe a pound and a half of shrimp. We're just gonna throw it in there and let it cook. This is our shrimp and okra gumbo plated up. Each gumbo has a unique flavor all in its own, and this has always been one of my favorites. For dinner tonight, we're gonna have shake and bake. We're gonna make it in the air fryer. I'm gonna use chicken drumsticks. For sides, we're gonna have some green beans, some macaroni and cheese, and rice dressing. I'll probably put the green beans in the air fryer at the same time I put the chicken. I'll cook that and then we'll heat up the sides. I put the shake and bake and the green beans on the same tray in the air fryer. I baked them at 380 for 20 minutes, turning them halfway through. This is air fry shake and bake that I got on clearance at a discount grocery store for like a quarter a really long time ago, and I never used it. A little bit of olive oil and this seasoning blend, salt, pepper, and garlic. That's what's on here. The macaroni that I just heated up, and this is the rice dressing or dirty rice. Let's plate it up. So here we have dinner tonight. It was so easy because the rice dressing or dirty rice and the macaroni and cheese was both in the freezer. They were leftovers. But the greatest part about it is tonight when we eat them, they don't taste like leftovers because we haven't eaten them for the past, 2 or 3 nights in a row. So that's why I love to take leftovers and vacuum seal them when they're still fresh, put them in the freezer for another night, and then it feels like it's just fast food that you didn't even have to cook because you did it already previously. I love comfort food in the wintertime. So this meal came together 20 minutes in the air fryer. That simple. Well, hello there. I hope y'all are having a great day. I'm getting ready to prepare dinner and I wanted to show y'all what we're having. Today we are having a classic chicken and sausage rice and gravy, a simple, easy, authentic Cajun dish. This dish is literally costing less than $1 per serving. We're gonna use chicken drumsticks, 1 link of smoked sausage. This is the deer sausage that I opened up for the shrimp gumbo. A couple of slices of frozen bell pepper, a large onion. We're gonna use 3/4 of this onion for the chicken and sausage gravy and 1/4 of the onion for the lima beans. Cajun seasoning, avocado oil, and rice. That's it. I know chicken is often prepared and then rice is cooked on the side, and people like to use chicken broth in that rice and serve it as a side with the chicken. We're not doing that because I'm cooking chicken in a Cajun authentic gravy, which is very rich. So we want the plain white rice or brown rice because we're putting a very rich gravy on it. Okay, y'all, take a listen to this in the background. Do you hear that? It sounds like a plane is about to take off. Okay, that's my refrigerator. It's gonna get louder before it gets quieter. Here we go. This is so embarrassing. I just have to let it run its course. It's gonna get louder, sorry. My husband and I are gonna tend to that in the near future. I really do not wanna buy a new refrigerator. We hope we can resolve this issue. Every day or so it does this, like once a day for the past probably 4 or 5 days. All right, I'm gonna try to get through this anyway. I apologize for my loud refrigerator in the background. The first thing I do is go through the beans and pick out any of the bad ones. These are good. Now I'm gonna rinse them a few times, fill it up with water. I start the beans on high heat. I am gonna put a little drizzle of avocado oil. You want to put some type of fat, and chicken drumsticks are not very fat, so I'm going to put about that much avocado oil. We're going to go ahead and turn this on low. This chicken has been well seasoned on all sides. I took this chicken out early this morning, so it's completely defrosted. The oil's warm, but not so hot that it's going to sear the chicken. I just took the leftover seasoning that was on that plate and I added them to the beans. We may season them again after a while, but for now, that's enough. Next, I'm gonna add about a tablespoon of sugar to this. I'm gonna use coconut sugar. We're gonna boil the water out of this and continually repeat at least 4 times, if not more. Gonna keep it on high as long as I'm near the stove. One of my favorite ways to make sticky chicken is with the whole cut up chicken. That way there's a lot of variety of the type of meat. While this browns and this cooks, I'm gonna use this time to cut up the onion and the sausage. It's only been a couple of minutes, just enough time for me to cut that onion. Turn this chicken again. The goal is to ultimately try to brown as many sides as you possibly can. Take a handful of onions, and I'm gonna add it to the beans. That's all we need for this. And then we're gonna go ahead and add more water. Enough to completely cover the beans. The chicken has browned on all sides, but it is far from cooked. The reason my kids call this sticky chicken is because when I cook a whole chicken, a lot of times the thighs, the skin sticks to the bottom of the pot. And I'll leave it. If there is skin on the bottom, it's okay to leave it. Legs doesn't stick that way. We're gonna let these rest. We're gonna take the rest of our onion and begin to brown it. This onion is gonna release water and it's gonna absorb all the bits from the bottom of the pan. So we do not need to add anything. Just let this sit for a minute or 2. You can use a spoon or a fork to scrape the bottom of the pan. My preference in cooking rice and gravy used to be an old Magnolite pot. Cajuns love Magnolite pots, but they're made out of aluminum and they're not good for you. And through the years, I switched to black pots, Dutch ovens, and stainless steel. The reason I really like stainless steel for something like this, that I know I'm gonna be scraping the bottom of the pot, I like to use stainless steel cooking utensils, and I can scrape it much better without messing up the enamel on the bottom of a Dutch oven. See how much liquid has been released from these onions? While this cooks for just a couple of minutes, I'm gonna now slice the sausage. So it's just a minute or so later. The beans are boiling nice for the second time. The onions are beginning to soften a little bit. Now we're gonna go ahead and turn the fire up. We're gonna add our sausage and our bell pepper. We'll add the bell pepper first. I've had a couple of people ask me why I've used such a little amount of bell pepper. Bell pepper is a nightshade, and I try to consume the least amount of nightshade. If this is enough to enrich the flavor and add color, the peppers go a lot further that way. Someone else asked me why I don't put celery, the Trinity. Onions, bell peppers, and celery goes in all Cajun food. That is more of a Creole cooking combination than an authentic Cajun. There are some things I for sure put celery, but it's not a must in every dish. This is enough to create a wonderful, complex, rich flavor in addition to this. Now this is gonna add a lot of depth and smokiness, this smoked venison sausage. Still have not added any liquid to this. Now I'm gonna add a tablespoon of coconut sugar. It helps caramelize the onions and it ties these flavors together. The smokiness of the meat and the Cajun seasoning is complemented really nicely by just that little bit of coconut sugar. I'm not even gonna taste it in the gravy. Add some more liquid to the beans. We just want to keep them covered, and I want them to continually boil. So it's been about 4 or 5 minutes. You can see the difference in the color. Here's a spot that looks like it might be sticking. If I take my fork or spoon, I can still scrape the bottom and it is not burnt. It's just removing all the bits from the bottom of the pan that's going to create the most amazing, delicious gravy. Now, if your family does not like onions and you don't want to see the onions in the gravy, cut the onions much smaller before you begin, or cook this down a little bit longer. If you were to cook this down a little bit longer for it not to burn, now would be the time you would have to add a little bit of water. And I'd show you just enough to make sure that nothing sticks or burns. And you'd add a little bit more. Talking like tablespoons. That was maybe 1 tablespoon to start, and this is maybe 2 tablespoons. Just enough to wet the bottom of the pot, and then you just let it continue to cook and brown. Now, if you're in a hurry or onions don't bother you, then bypass that step and add your chicken back to the pot. Turn it up to medium heat. See that those 3 tablespoons of water has already started to cook out. Everything is back in the pot. I'm gonna take 1 quart of water, where I'm not gonna pour directly on the meat. Okay, so this is a half. We want to cook this in the shortest amount of time, so I'm going to add more water, enough to barely cover the chicken. at least 3/4 of the way up. So I ended up using the whole quart of water. We're gonna keep it on medium. We're gonna put the cover on and just let it boil for about 15 minutes and then we'll check. For the beans, it's almost time to add some more water. I do wanna add something with a little bit of color to contrast the beans. I'm gonna use green onions because this is what I have in the freezer that I wanna use up. Green onions or parsley. That's my two go-tos. I'm gonna add some more water. 15 minutes later, it's time to add more water to the beans. And let's see what the chicken looks like. There's still plenty of water. All we're gonna do is flip the chicken. We'll put the lid back on and we'll set the timer for another 15 minutes. This is the easy way where I can set the timer for 15 minutes, go do something else and come back to it. If I was in a really big hurry, I just wouldn't have added quite as much water and I would have had to stay right here and tend to it a little bit more. And we're gonna set the timer again for another 15 minutes. We're gonna continue to cook, this time with the lid off, so that we can condense this liquid and form a gravy. The beans are falling apart, they are soft. Another 15 minutes and they should be perfect. This is what the beans look like when they're ready. The last 15 minutes made the world of difference. They just broke apart and they're very soft and tender. And here's dinner, all plated up. Chicken and sausage, rice and gravy with smothered lima beans. This is delicious, classic Cajun comfort food. Rice and gravy, amazing. The beans are so good. Why I prefer to cook dry beans with rice and gravy like this versus fresh or frozen, because fresh or frozen beans, you want to keep them intact and they just have a different consistency. And this consistency pairs really well with this type of rice and gravy. Hope you guys try it. Let me know down below if you give it a try, if you give it a thumbs up. Pulled this out of the freezer. I have 1 pack of boneless chicken breast. I think there's 2 chicken breasts in a pack. And I have frozen broccoli and cauliflower. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna use some leftover rice and we are gonna make a broccoli chicken and rice casserole. Here's the rest of the ingredients. We have leftover rice, the last of the mushrooms that was in the fridge, a little bit of rotel that's been in the fridge, some shredded cheese that I just pulled out of the freezer, 1 can of cream of chicken. We're only gonna use about half of this onion, so let's get cooking. The first thing we're gonna do is brown our chicken. This is 2 chicken breasts, cut them up, seasoned them really well with Cajun seasoning. There's a little bit of oil in the bottom of the Dutch oven. We're gonna toss this chicken in the oil and let it brown a few minutes while we cut up the onion. Once the chicken's brown, we're gonna remove it. We're just gonna set it aside. There should be enough oil left in here that you shouldn't have to add any more. Next, we're gonna add half of an onion and the rest of the mushrooms, probably about 4 ounces. I'm gonna let this brown for a minute or so, and then I'm gonna add the vegetables. Once you've sauteed the vegetables, you're gonna go ahead and add your rotel and your cream of chicken. The whole purpose of this challenge is to get rid of the things that we have sitting in the pantry or the fridge or the freezer that we never use. And this is one of those things. I had this from the holidays. In fact, I have a couple more of these and I never use them because I prefer to make my own fresh. Give it a stir, mix it together really well, and then go ahead and add your cheese. I'm using sharp cheddar that I had got on clearance at Kroger. It's been sitting in the freezer. I haven't used it because I prefer to shred my own. It's time to use it up, so here we go. I have it on low so it won't stick or burn. The water in the frozen cheese is going to provide just enough moisture so I won't have to add any other liquid. This looks good. We're gonna add our chicken and our rice and get it in the oven. On a side note, I keep containers like this because it's perfect size whenever I want to treat neighbors. So we seasoned the chicken before we started browning it, but we did not season anything else. So before I add the rice, I'm gonna add a tablespoon of garlic powder and a tablespoon of cayenne pepper. We like spice, and I did not use fresh or frozen garlic. Now we're gonna add the rice. This is about 2 cups of rice. Fold the rice in. I try not to mush the rice, and we don't want it on the dry side. If you find that yours is too dry, you could add a little tiny bit of water. Now we're gonna get it in the oven for about 20-25 minutes until it's bubbly. You can transfer it to a 13x9 baking dish if you'd like. I don't think it's necessary. It's in a Dutch oven. The Dutch oven will go straight into the oven, and then that's one less dish that we have to wash. If you wanna top it with more cheese or green onions, you can. I may grab a little bit of paprika. Yes, let's do that. And this is just for color. Now we're gonna pop this in the oven. We're gonna bake at 350 uncovered, set a timer for about 20 minutes. Timer just went off. It's nice and bubbly. Here it is all plated up. Let's take a bite. Exceptional. This is an easy way to get kids to eat vegetables they wouldn't typically jump up and down for. Tonight for dinner, we are gonna have quick and easy Hamburger Helper. Make a couple of different varieties. Tonight, I'm doing a copycat version of the store-bought Hamburger Helper or cheeseburger flavor. So we're gonna use pork. It happened to be what was closest for me to grab in the freezer, so that's what I grabbed. I have 2 pounds. We're gonna go ahead and put this on. We're gonna let it start browning. I'm gonna grab the cheese and a few other ingredients that we need to make this come together in 30 minutes. I'm gonna use some Tony's. This is the large 1 pound, 1 ounce container. I open it on the smaller side. You can only see 3 of the holes. And then I use a steady hand and I go back and forth about 2 times. So about 4 passes total. These are the other ingredients that we're gonna use. We have garlic powder and onion powder, paprika, a little bit of coconut sugar, cornstarch, some kitchen bouquet, pasta, some milk. I'm doing a combination of the little bit of milk that I have left with this oats, pumpkin seeds, and sunflower seeds. Some butter, some cheese, and some water. I don't have exact measurements because I just eyeball it. This is about 1.5 tablespoons of both onion powder and garlic powder. Next, we're gonna add the cornstarch. I do not like to add the cornstarch directly to the meat. I like to use a little bit of water to dilute it. And I also like to put a little dash of kitchen bouquet, especially tonight because I'm doing ground pork instead of ground beef. So it's gonna add a little bit more color. We're gonna mix this up. Next, we're gonna add both the sugar and the cornstarch. And I'm using coconut sugar, probably about a teaspoon. Add our cornstarch with a little bit of kitchen bouquet. Next, we're gonna add our liquids and our pasta and bring it to a boil, medium to medium-high heat. And we're gonna add our water. Add at least 3 cups of water, maybe 4. Next, we're gonna add our pasta. My personal preference in this meal would be elbow macaroni. I don't have any. So I'm gonna use this bow tie pasta. You wanna use about a 1/2 pound per pound of ground beef. This is approximately a pound. Once you add your pasta, you're gonna add your milk. You're gonna wanna do 2 or 3 cups. I'm gonna start with 2, and I'll add more if I think it's necessary. Bring this to a boil, lower the temperature, and cover. And set a timer for 5 minutes. It's been 5 minutes. It looks and smells like cheeseburger Hamburger Helper already. Then turn the heat up just a little bit. We're gonna cook the pasta until al dente, maybe another minute or 2. Now I'm gonna add my spoon of butter. It helps thicken the sauce if you add cold butter. We're gonna go ahead and add the cheese. This is a bag of shredded cheese I had in the freezer. It's not marked, I'm just guessing it's about a pound. And I'm not exactly sure what kind. It's yellow. I'm gonna taste it and see if I can figure out what kind it is. It tastes kind of like sharp cheddar. Medium cheddar would probably be my first choice because it would most resemble what you get in the box. Now let this sit for another minute or 2 and then it'll be ready to top with the paprika and serve. Here it is plated up. We're gonna garnish with some paprika. Let's give it a taste. It's still smoking, so it's really hot. This is a win. Tonight for dinner, we are having fast food from the freezer. This is old hot dog buns, or what are they? Yeah, white hot dog buns that I've had in the refrigerator since the holidays. I'm astonished to see that they're still good. I'm gonna use a little bit of steam and make them soft again. I took a frozen pound of sausage. I cut a few pieces off. I'm gonna use this for a jambalaya in a few days. The rest of it, I have browning on the stove. Since it was frozen, I put a little bit of water. I'm gonna boil it down, and once all the water boils out, then we'll pan fry it a little bit, and we'll put it on those buns, and we'll have sausage on a bun, but this is Cajun smoked sausage, so it's way better. It's Cajun smoked deer sausage. We are gonna have it with some of this butternut squash soup thawed out, heated up. Once all of the water has boiled out of the pot, it's completely defrosted. It's pretty much cooked. Now we just wanna brown it. You're gonna have to watch it closely. You're gonna just let it brown. You can roll them or flip them every so often until you get the color you want. Once it's brown to the consistency that you like, you can go ahead and add just a little drop of water. All right, friends, it is done. I'm gonna turn it off and put it on a bun. Cajun sausage on a bun, a couple of beets, and the soup. The soup is fantastic. It's the first time I've ever had that. And if I ever see it on clearance, I will definitely buy it again. I put a little bit of ketchup on mine. That's how I like it. Cajun sausage on a bun brings back lots of childhood memories. Hello friends, happy Saturday. We have a lot of stuff going on this weekend. I do not have the time to be in the kitchen cooking all day, so it's a perfect day for the crock pot. Tonight for dinner, we are gonna have taco soup, crock pot style. I pulled out some frozen cooked ground meat a little earlier because I knew I was gonna make something in the crock pot. And I like to use ground meat that's already been cooked in the crock pot. So I pulled that out earlier. I didn't know if I was gonna do spaghetti or chili or what I was gonna do. Then I had a phone call with a friend and we were talking about taco soup, and I decided, hey, I hadn't had taco soup in a long time, so that's dinner for tonight. So then I just went back to the freezer and I pulled out some corn from the garden, some cream style corn. These two are still pretty frozen. Tri-bean blend, some canned pinto beans, some tomato paste. We'll probably only use just a little bit of this. The cooked ground meat, tomatoes from the garden, ranch dressing, taco seasoning. Now, this is some spicy taco seasoning that I had picked up on clearance. I picked up quite a few of them. We are accustomed to spice. We love spice. I'm used to stuff saying it's spicy and I don't find it's very spicy. This right here, it's spicy. So if you do not like spice, steer clear of this one. If you like spice, it's a good one. Some chili powder, cumin, onion powder, garlic powder, a little bit of coconut sugar, paprika. This is a little bit of chili. You can use red pepper flakes if you don't have this. I just have this open and so I want to use it. And some salt and some pepper. This is what I'm using today. I make this a variety of different ways. I don't really follow a recipe. I will show you how much of each thing I'm gonna put in here, but I don't follow exact measurements. I mostly eye it and I do it differently every time. For instance, if I was using canned ranch style beans instead of plain home canned pinto beans, I would probably omit half of this stuff. So the first thing we added to our pot is 1 pound of cooked ground beef. When I pre-cook meat for the freezer, I do always season it, but I always season it lightly with my Cajun seasoning because I use that in almost everything that I cook. So I still have flexibility to add other seasonings depending on how I want to use the ground beef. So take in mind as I'm adding these seasonings, this has already been lightly seasoned once. Maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, some pepper, probably 1/4 of a teaspoon, about 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, and we're gonna do about 2 teaspoons of onion powder, about 1 teaspoon of paprika, about 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder, about 1/2 teaspoon of cumin, a couple of teaspoons of coconut sugar. Now we're gonna add some ranch. The thing about this is I think I've only used it a couple of times. It's probably close to a year old. I had to use a knife to break it up because it got hard. I know better. Years ago, I used to put beans and stuff like this to keep it from hardening. I've been so busy the past couple of years, I didn't take the time to do it. I'm still determined to use this. If you haven't used anything to keep yours soft and it's hard, just use a butter knife and break it up that way. That's what I did. So this little container holds about 3 tablespoons. This is probably close to 2.5. I do not want to put these big chunks of ranch into this. I'm going to transfer it to this bowl and I'll fill it up with hot water. And we'll let that sit for a minute while we add the rest of our ingredients. So I just added the taco seasoning. Now we're gonna give it a quick stir. I did not put any oil in here because ground meat typically has enough fat. So I am coating the meat with all of the seasoning. Now we're gonna take our ranch that's been dissolved with water, give it another quick stir. Now we're gonna add a little bit of this chili crisp like this. We'll add our beans with the liquid, our canned beans with the liquid. These tomatoes were mixed with a variety of peppers from the garden, and that's fine. Lastly, we're gonna add the corn. This is fresh corn from the garden. Once this corn melts, this crock pot is gonna be filled to the brim. Now is where you judge the thickness. The ice in this corn is gonna melt, so this will become thinner if we do not add anything to it. So I have about 1 teaspoon of tomato paste. I'm gonna stir this in. We're gonna cover and cook on low all day, about 6 to 8 hours. All right, this is several hours later. Dinner is ready. It's been on for probably 8 hours. We have fresh cornbread made with stone ground corn. Let's see what this soup looks like. It is full. This smells so wonderful. Now we're gonna go ahead and serve a plate. Tips that I suggest when you're making soup in the crock pot: before you put it on, even though all the ingredients are cold, make sure the seasonings are right according to your taste buds and alter the seasoning before it begins to cook. I've always had greater success with meals in the crock pot when I put the least amount of liquid possible. And here's dinner. It took all of 10 minutes to get it together. Let's taste this cornbread. There's so much butter in here, I'm not even gonna add butter. We love cornbread. Let's give this a taste. It's really hot. I'm trying to let it cool. Another incredible winter soup. It's Saturday night. We've officially just finished week 4 of the pantry challenge, and it's time to take a look at where the freezers stand. Here's freezer number 1. I don't even know what to say. This is very surprising to me. Okay, so 4 weeks ago, I could barely even open the freezer. They were filled to the top. Now, they're still filled to the top. Yes, we have eaten out of this freezer, but there's a couple of reasons why it doesn't look quite as empty as I guess I thought it would be. One, when we have leftovers that we don't need for the next day, and it is enough to feed us a whole meal, I will freeze it while it's still fresh and put it back in the freezer for another day. It's my version of fast food. So this is the sausage and lentil soup that we made together. It was enough to feed us twice. However, we didn't need lunch the next day, so it went in the freezer. And excuse my mess, because when I freeze stuff like this, and I'm not careful and I just put it in here and I don't have a flat surface, it'll freeze all misshaped like that and take up 3 times more room than it should. So that's one of the things I want to work on going forward. I hope he'll help hold me accountable. Once I make space in these freezers, that's one of my goals. I want to be more organized and I want to be more efficient in that regard. Besides this, I have baby food. I am a proud GG and I love making baby food for my grandbaby. And this is his prunes. That's part of why it's not quite as empty as I thought it would be. And the third reason is my husband is a hunter, and we were blessed this past month with ducks from the Lord. That's what I say, these are wild ducks. Even though none of these things were purchased at the grocery store, they still were bulky and take up lots of room. And as you can see, this was not put in a vacuum seal bag. He did this and he just put it in a Ziploc bag. So this is gonna have to be one of the first things that we eat going forward. This is an update on freezer 1. It's still pretty full. Moving on to freezer 2. Guys, all I can say is this is very surprising to me. You can see a little bit of space here, and there's probably a little bit of space in the drawers. And it used to be overflowing here. And so as we've pulled stuff out, we've been able to kind of take the excess and push it in the back. There's a little bit of space here. All right, this is freezer number 2. Now let's take a look at my biggest problem area. Well, at least I can slide the top drawer open and shut. There are a few gaps, but it is still full. Okay, this might give you a better idea. A month ago, I could barely close this top drawer. And now you can see quite a bit of space. You can see a pretty big gap. I'm sure it's probably always supposed to look that way. We're probably not supposed to fill these baskets higher than the edge. That could be part of the issues that I'm having with my refrigerator. There's still plenty of frost on some of this stuff. I still need to work through it. But we are making some progress. So, are we gonna continue the challenge in the month of February? Absolutely. Let's take a peek at the pantry. There's a couple of gaps, a couple of empty containers, but boy, is this a mess. I have another project coming up. We are gonna tackle the pantry, and I'm also gonna tackle the seasonings. We're gonna tackle all this. Okay, now we need a fridge update. This is where you can see the biggest change, I think. So here's an update on how we're doing a month into the challenge. We are definitely going to keep going. As I move forward in part 2 of the video, one of the things that I'm going to be thinking about is how to use up the stuff that needs to be used up, and also how we can plan ahead for some of the things coming up in February. We have a Super Bowl right around the corner, and we have Valentine's Day, and we have more to grow. So stay tuned and come back and see what we do.